One thing I wanted to talk to you about, which I think you really wonderfully highlighted, was this challenge between physical health and emotional health. And you talk about the need for prioritizing emotional health as well. And I've found that so much of my subtle emotional health was so based on physical health. So, what I mean by that is, I found at one point in doing all of my checks and tests that, and by the way, I was functioning at like a really optimal level. I was just feeling tired. And when we did my test, we found that my vitamin D was at a 10. This was around 2-3 years ago. And I realized the majority of the challenges I was having was because I was sleeping. We rented a home during COVID. We moved from our apartment. And when we rented this space, I never slept well in that space because it was just the most like noisy, loud area because it was in the middle of too many animals, too many things at night, like going through the floorboards. Like it was an old space. And so there was like, I was waking up multiple times, which I don't usually go through. And so I started to find that a lot of my emotional challenges, whether it's fatigue, irritability, stress because of that environment, was causing emotional challenges, but it was actually all coming from a physical space, if that makes sense.
For sure.
And I think so often these days, I find a lot of us are just trying to solve everything in our mind rather than recognizing that often it's a chemical, it's biological, it's physical. So I want to just point that out to people because I think a lot of us are like, I could have done anything to change. I was working out. I was trying to sleep right. I was doing everything I possibly could. But because my vitamin D was at a level 10, there's not much you can do instead of apart from taking vitamin D supplements. Where are you seeing this relationship? Where are you seeing this relationship between emotional health and physical health?
Well, they're absolutely linked. And, I think that one of the things that I've observed, my therapists will always ask me at the beginning of a session is, how are you doing physically? So are you in pain? Right? Is your shoulder bugging you? Is your back bugging you? Do you have like an ulcer in your mouth or something like literally something like that? How are you rested? And how much stress are you under? And the reason I think is those things exacerbate vulnerabilities that we have on the emotional side, on the mental side. So if you take an individual the same individual in two parallel universes, but in one situation, they have lots of issues going on physically, right? So they're not well rested, their vitamin D is low, they're in pain, and you have another individual for which everything is physically firing on all cylinders, and you present them with the same emotional distress, you're going to see a completely different response. That's a big part of why I think it does matter to keep your physical health in order to optimize your emotional health. But I would also argue that you could still have your physical health in perfect order and, not be coming close to addressing your emotional health.